Galle, Sri Lanka, 9:26 a.m. Much of the centre is underwater. There was no warning and no time to escape. Such is the volume of water that even buses are submerged. Passengers scramble on top as they sink beneath their feet. The lucky ones made it and could only watch as everyone else is swept away. Further along the coast, a train, ironically called the Queen of the Sea, it was packed with people for the journey from Colombo to Galle. It's gone down in history as the most deadly train crash ever.
We can't identify them because they are so damaged. So I saw about 1,000 bodies that they buried with the bulldozers.
So many dead, there was no time for funeral rites. Corpse after corpse, simply dumped in pits by the sea that killed them. Scenes of grief were also played out across the southern coast of India, where thousands perished. And this was the holiday paradise of the Maldives. Vehicles swept down streets, people dicing with death to move to higher ground. Even as far away as Kenya in East Africa, the tsunami was claiming lives.
As thousands of people were dying in Sri Lanka and India, here in Thailand, Kale and his girlfriend were hearing rumours of more giant waves heading their way. They weren't taking any chances and decided to hike up one of the hills on Koh Phi Phi to higher ground. But unknown to them, this was full of hidden dangers.
But we came up towards the jungle, and that's where we spent the longest night in history. In the middle of the night, and a guy came down, an American guy came down and asked us if we knew anything about snake bites. And his friend, she was bitten by a snake, and it didn't look very good for her, and she never came down. So she actually died from a snake bite. And a few days later I heard several others were actually killed by snake bites. So imagine we're in a jungle. It was more or less impossible to both stand, sit and lay down. It was really steep, and then the news came that there was deadly snakes around us. Well, I said to Sarah, I whispered in her ear that if we would make it down alive, let's get married when we get back home. Today, we have two beautiful kids as well, Lydia and Sixten, 2.5 years old and 1 year old today. And life is quite strange. This is a really tragic story, but we have some kind of beautiful memory from it as well.
But the stories of survival are vastly outweighed by the terrible death toll. These scars on the landscape used to be towns. The UN estimates some 245,000 were killed or went missing, most in Aceh, Indonesia. These pictures helped to generate an unprecedented aid effort. More than $7 billion were donated by people who were appalled by what they were seeing that Christmas.
Oh, I think it was phenomenal. It was unprecedented. I think contributions just flooded in from individuals, from companies, from children themselves. I think the tsunami had really touched people's hearts. I think it was the timing. A lot of people were celebrating. It was Christmas, and I think people were really, really touched when they saw those pictures.
Since then, $3.2 billion have been spent on reconstruction in Aceh alone, according to the government agency responsible, the BKRA. It says that means more than 140,000 homes totally rebuilt with aid money.
The last time I was here, there wasn't a single building left standing. There was just rubble and bodies all over the place. Now, 5 years on, there are hundreds of new homes, shops and even mosques. This is barely recognisable. It is a neighbourhood reborn.
And this is how it looked 5 years ago. Listen to how a local conservationist described the devastation to me in 2004.
It does remind me of the pictures we see of Nagasaki or Hiroshima, where there was just, I think, one building, one cathedral standing, a gutted cathedral standing, and the rest was levelled, a levelled plain of shards. And that's more or less the situation here. We have one big building to our left, and the rest is just nothing except debris.
I met Mike again at the very same spot, and he told me how things have changed.
If you walk through Banda Aceh now, you actually have trouble finding clues to the disaster that struck this city and wiped out perhaps 30% of it. There's so much rebuilding been going on that some places are almost unrecognisable from that time.
The jewel in the crown is this brand new state-of-the-art hospital, financed by German aid money. What a contrast from the terrible scenes in the old hospital in 2004. But not all the rebuilding has been done properly. In this neighbourhood, the houses are empty. They were built with no running water, and the standard of construction is poor. Mariami lost her 3 children and husband in the tsunami. She complained she had to partly rebuild her house, even though it was brand new.
The walls are made of wood. I had to change them myself because when it rains, the water gets inside the house. We don't even have drinking water here.
The government agency which oversaw the aid admits there were problems with some houses, but says overall the money was well spent.
The building quality depends on the contractor and the material used. Some are good, some are not. The donor projects were generally good. We closely monitored how the houses were built.
Fitri and her mother are not totally happy with their rebuilt house, but even so, life for them is now so much better than it was 5 years ago. And that's thanks largely to the money donated by people in the West and overseas Islamic charities. It is incredible that Fitri survived the tsunami. She drifted for 10 hours out at sea while she was 3 months pregnant. What's even more amazing is that the baby survived as well. And here he is. Today, Zachary is a healthy 4.5-year-old boy, an embodiment of the newfound hope in Aceh. He is literally a child of the tsunami.
I swallowed a lot of that black, warm and stinky seawater. I thought the baby might get hurt from the water. When I checked, the baby was fine. I don't know how, its guts will. I'm happy that it's normal. Other kids weren't that lucky. But what makes me sad was that my kid was born without a father.
A story of loss repeated thousands of times. Zachary will never meet his father. He was just one of the 245,000 people who disappeared or died that day. The day the sea swallowed their town and changed millions of lives forever.